Hello, everybody that is on the YouTube watching this on your phone, TV, wherever you're watching this interview on, or you are in our lovely Discord server listening in. Uh, Welcome. This is our third interview event for the server, and I am super excited for the guest that we have here today. To go in depth into it, he is known for directing talent in the booth for more than 20 years, the son of a speech professor. He has engineered and booth directed hundreds of voiceover sessions for every media and platform, from commercials, podcasts, and industrials to TV shows and films. We have Ross Leitner. How are you, brother?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. It's rare that someone parallels my level of energy in the booth on either side of the glass. Let's go.
Alrighty. Now we can really jump into this. On the YouTube, you guys didn't see it, but this did require another take. So we had to do the intro again, but it's technical difficulties. We work through it, we get through it. I believe that in terms of a really good question, just to start off, not only as more of an icebreaker, but for other folks to really get a grasp of you and your experience in this industry and space. To start us off, where did you find your start in this industry of both audio mixing, producing, and directing?
Sure. So I'll give you my brief life history. Bear in mind, I'm 50, so I've got to go way, way back before anyone in the chat was even born. Um, I'm a classical pianist, so like grew up playing very, very like controlled music. Uh, and didn't listen to any other type of music until, I don't know, maybe 14, 15, 16, maybe the Beatles, studied music theory because uh, I was a music guy and I could read. The theater department was like, "Oh my God, get him to do piano in the pit orchestra." And that I could just read, I knew theory. So I was immediately playing piano in pit orchestras from theater. And I played a little bit of violin, got into some orchestration, and then I was immediately drawn to like the theater and musician crowd in high school. Now, when I say high school, for me, we're talking before phones. I graduated high school in 92. So let that sink in just for a second. Still doing theater though. And then got into some conducting and musical direction when I went to college, and just that was a thread. Now, I did not major in performance in college. My degree is actually in economics, if you could believe it. Mostly because there were only 11 requirements in undergrad for 11 classes. But I basically was in every type of performance group I possibly could be in college. I was in a band. I played electric violin in a band. I composed my own musical. I was a music director for like small uh, theater productions. And believe me, I appreciate summer stock. I appreciate summer theater. I appreciate high school, collegiate theater, beyond New York, small, off Broadway, Broadway. I totally get it. And the type of people that I met, I mean, it was, each one more talented than the next, and the level of passion. And then the real challenge for most people, including myself, is, after school, that artistic element, that performance element, that technical element, it can just lay dormant while you go get a real job. That's what everybody says, right? Go get a real job. And how frustrating is it to be performance adjacent? So what happened to me was I took two suitcases and my guitar and violin and went to Los Angeles. Got a job as a runner in Enterprise Studios and learned recording. I'm talking about recording like R&B, rap, pop recording in a super high-end recording studio from start to finish. Didn't major in it, learned it on the job. And for 7 years I was there, and that was probably the second largest recording studio in the world at the time. So if you turned over a CD at the time, we did that. We must have had 150 employees because we had a rental company that's like an audio rental company where we drop off and set up all different kinds of mics. at Capitol Records, at little home studios. This is way before remote recording. This is when you really couldn't record from home. So we're talking, Britney Spears, Snoop Dogg, Christina Aguilera, like you name Michael Jackson, high end recording artists. They came to our studio. And when I say studio, I really mean complex. We're talking like 7 to 10 rooms with these huge SSL consoles, major labels only because it was so expensive. And yeah, I say music studio, but it was really a 24-hour music hotel and that is where my like 24/7 always working on production philosophy comes from, because I just saw that I didn't watch the Super Bowl for like 7 years because we're working through the Super Bowl, try to catch it on TV. Excuse me, TV in the lounge. So then check this out. I went from runner to assistant engineer to engineer, then got into project management. Why? I don't know why. I just kind of fell into working with like one group at a time, and then got into the admin and tech and setup and that type of thing. Got into a little bit of video as well. Then, circa 2001, 2, 3, 4, uh, the industry, because of Napster MP3s, totally imploded, and I became, we'll call it an independent engineer. I want to say budding producer, if you will. And because I knew technical setups, I actually had a database of all the different places that we would deliver headphones, music stands, microphones, Pro Tools interfaces to, and they became my clients. It was so weird. They became my clients for like technical setup and consulting for uh, for engineering, and I became kind of an independent editor engineer. And so my services were both equipment, setup, and or rental even, and then also editing. And and in that process, I started, getting enough momentum to record and produce really girls and their guitars, singer-songwriters, that type of thing. And there is an element of booth direction in every engineer if there isn't a producer behind them. So my philosophy, my approach, my energy, my attitude, the phrasing, just the way I pull it out of anyone on the other side of a mic, whether it's musician or voiceover, is sort of the sum, the aggregate of all the different people that were behind me when I was engineering. And
Yeah.
so, fast forward another, let's say, dozen years, uh, editing, independent films, uh, tuning on the DL, tuning like major artists that you think might not need tuning. This is before tuning was a thing and was accepted. Like just being a tuning beast because I was a musician, punching in and out and being privy to those sessions, and then ultimately being called on to direct. I don't know if there's pre-roll in a music video and there's voiceover in a music video, then someone has to direct that. Oh, Ross, you're there. Sort of creeping into voiceover when I came from music and had a big background in theater. And then circa, 20, I want to say 2015, I got a job engineering at VoiceOver LA, and that was just life-changing. Came on board as an engineer. And again, I would say I am the product of all the directors and all the people that have worked behind me, like literally being my boss, and worked with some crazy people. They're all crazy and talented. And then became chief engineer, and then became basically like a default director when clients book on Phone Patch. And currently I'm working as head of production and talent for VoiceOver LA, more than 10 years later. We were a boutique agency at the time. We're talking there was almost no remote recording. So if you can think about that, because the world has changed mostly since it was accelerated, the tech accelerated super fast since COVID, but everybody was coming in. We did motion capture too. The best part about a voiceover session for me, don't forget, I come from music where you do an album and it's like the same band for weeks. Or if you do an independent film, it's like the same content for weeks. Voiceover session, commercial session, 40 minutes in and out, several sessions a day, meeting, I want to say like 1,000 different people a year. it changed my life. And everybody is, we can talk about this later, but like the beginning of every session, chatty, chatty, chit chat. Hey, how you doing? Now we get to work. Now we get to work. Now we get our coverage. Let's go. And then at the end, chatty, chatty, chit chat. Ha, 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 ha. That just like every Zoom session, just like every Discord. Uh, then uh, then COVID almost shut us down. Everything went remote, and I had to work with a group of maybe 7 to 10 techs and button up. This is, before remote booths were a thing. Button up hundreds of local voice talent, get their closet or alcove set and ready to go in every single type of combination of interface and mic and workstation. Get them. You want to work? We got to set you up. Let's go. Invest a few $100s, or we'll loan this to you, or whatever. Here we go. Get them set up, ready to go. Got them buttoned up. Then went international, and now we record mostly remote, actually, in almost every language for every platform. We've got about 20 engineers, all Pro Tools, just because our workflow is Pro Tools, but they do have to learn other DAWs. And I book every session that comes in from clients, but I default direct when clients need a little bit of help, or when I'm engineering and I just need to beat it out of them. So that's it. That was my brief life history.
Oh man, the reason why I've asked the question, because although it's a common question that I ask for everyone that is in this setting, I wanted people to have at least somewhat of a grip to really conceptualize not only how long you've been in this space, but how long you've just experienced aspects of our industry from multiple different ends of the position, I'd say. And I think that's pretty cool. And you mentioned one thing, particularly about studios, that I do want to bleed into our next question. So I am 5 years old. Let's metaphorically put it that way, and I want to know how a regular studio session would operate. Break that down for me.
Okay, there are different levels of studios. There are different levels of studio sessions. We're talking remote session.
Yes.
Okay, we're talking remote. So, for I think most people are used to, let's say, even remote, like video game walkthrough with your headset. What's a remote session? You guys grew up with that, but it was a relatively new thing. Let's say eight years ago. Everyone's got their setup. Now that setup varies, and I'll get into this later. But the biggest, the operative word is integration of like tech and admin and communication. Just remember that word integration. That's how you get work. But we basically have to figure out, where is this person recording from? I mean, if it's one of our talent, they have to be like pre-approved. What does that mean? Like, they're recording from at the very least an alcove and not a giant cavernous abyss of like vaulted ceiling kitchen with echo. Like, that's a no-no. Like, small space, smaller reflection. Make sure that space is pre-qualified, and we might do a test beforehand. We basically know the space. However, sometimes we call it like it's not like a police thing, but it's like a tech lead. We haven't worked with this person. If we're only hired for engineering and we're not like producing it, and it's not our talent, that sometimes happens. We are married to a job with alternate talent. And we're not supposed to poach, right? So this is alternate talent. We don't know their space, so we do like an advanced call, and we set them up. What is that call? We get a sample, and we find out what's your interface, where you're recording from, what's your microphone, headphone, whatever. And we're talking, generally speaking, an external microphone in headphones, not in speakers, laptop, that it's an old laptop with a fan that turns on and off. We are basically trying to make sure that the space works. And if it doesn't work, we make it work. We have tools in post that we can try to make it work. But there is that first, get the tech down. That happens before sessions start. And because essentially when I book something, either engineering or talent, I am vouching for the project. Why? So we stay in business, and so we don't eat it and we don't piss people off. But I'm responsible for sound and the performance of script. So there's fidelity, there's the tech, and there's the performance of that. So let's assume that that's set up. That was a big long thing, and the reason I spend a lot of time on that is like That's once you get past that, if you're working with good people that know how to work, it's all downhill if you get the sonics and the connection. So we basically get a connection. What is that connection? It's either if it's an attended session, that means not asynchronous. That means it's not, oh, hey, you record this on your own. And so any like mid-level, high-end session where there isn't like an amazing establishment of trust or when there needs to be some direction, it is live. It is an online live session. And so what that means, at the very least, it's either Zoom or Teams. And you guys know Zoom or Teams, it's not done via Discord, but it's the same as this. You basically have two-way communication, and I always bring the talent in first. Like this, hey, how you doing? Chatty, chatty, chit, chat. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Are you ready to roll? Because I'm paying you. Are you ready to roll? Let me make sure I'm ready. And then talent is ultimately responsible for recording. Generally speaking, it's 24-bit 48K wave, but it can vary. Remember, 24-bit 48K wave. And just because they say they're recording, I don't know if they're recording. I mean, that's why you do an advanced tech test. So I make sure they're rolling before I bring in the client. Now, the client is sometimes we direct it, and sometimes it is an agency. When I say agency, I mean creative agency. I bring in between 2 and 7 people from the agency, and we're going to beat up that talent and get what's called coverage. After we say hi, chatty, chatty, chit, chat, how you doing? That's like the beginning of every session. Get all the wiggles out. Yeah, but they're a professional, and we'll go, okay. And then there's an initial compliment. So I want to go through this. Once we bring everybody in, we're ready to go. When there were a bunch of cooks there, I don't even need to weigh in. But I start almost every session. Why? Because people sit up straight and I pay everybody. So I start, and this is on Zoom. We actually have several Zoom accounts, a Teams account, and there are other connection mechanisms. But let's say it's a Zoom patch, you're rolling. There's usually a compliment, and this is interesting, and this is one of the reasons that this is actually what I want to like get out of my head and share with everyone who wants to work. There's usually a compliment at the front of the session, and that compliment is golden. I am privy to that, and that is, hey, this is why we chose you. This is why we love the way that you did a little bump on the little button on that. We love the little quirky, little crack and glide. We love how they little ha ha ha. There's that compliment. Why did this talent get booked? And when I say get booked, not just why did they like you, why did you beat, if you're booked, why did you beat 20 to 40 to 50 or more other working voice talent? Why were they selected? That's not just to make them feel good. That's literally like information. We like how this resonated with the brand or whatever, or the narration was so warm and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. That is a compliment, but it's really information, feather in your cap. And I'm privy to that. Why are they booking? And that's actually one of the things I just want to share with people. If you want to book, like, why are people booking? So there's that compliment, and then we get to work. And we get to work on a script, and that script comes, it's a holy mess. That script comes on Excel or PDF or inline via email, and it comes in hot, 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 hot. So the biggest difference between voice acting and on-screen acting is you're not memorizing your line. I mean, I know you want to, but if you memorize your line, first of all, you are probably memorizing a cadence, and they're going to beat a different cadence out of you, but it's going to change anyway, especially in commercial voiceover. We change things on the fly. In dubbing, we change it for mouth flaps on the fly. So that script comes in hot. Hopefully you have it set up. You have that maybe printed out, but really on like a PDF editor or something where you can annotate, because they're going to change it and you're going to like underline it, and you need your own annotation. We expect talent to have their own method of annotating. Oh, I need you to billboard. The brand can go up a little baby comma there. I want you to open wide and more. Whatever, all of the shenanigans, whatever we say, they got to write that down, and they got to do it quickly on the fly and then adjust. So they have to have their device. Usually, I mean, I like a second device, or at least because they're rolling on their laptop, or at least so they don't accidentally pop out of recording, or at least they can see their workstation. So they're still recording. So you're seeing your recording, then you see the script, you're in front of your mic, you're ready to work. Then we get what's called coverage. Take one, blah, 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 blah. If it's a 15-second, that's for time. The first read is always for time. And And we either have our like watch, or we're actually like, I might be recording a feed, and then we'll measure the feed. So if it's a 15, you know, if it's wall to wall dialogue on a 15, they can read at 17 and we'll tighten it up with the breaths. They could read it like 13, but if it's a lot more, a lot less than that, we got to change the pacing. And so once we settle that, okay, the attitude is right, the pacing is right, then we dig in. So again, first read, cold read this is like commercial VO, apologies for commercial VO, but everything else is like a derivative of that. And then we just beat the talent up. We try to get the whole thing in one shot. And then we want the opening, and then we want the opening, and then we want the opening, and then, and then, and then we want get it 6 ways sideways, like take one, and then we dig in and we chisel and we get what's called coverage on each piece. In every piece of commercial voiceover, even narration, actually, I'm not talking audiobooks, I'm talking like corporate narration. Usually the paragraphs have like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning, it's like, here's the hook, or here's the beginning of the parallel, here's the beginning. And the middle meat. What's the middle meat in commercial voiceover? The middle meat is all the information. It's overwritten usually that legal wants to get in there, and sales and marketing wants to get in there. That's why it's overwritten. So if it's a brand, if it's Lysol wants, what is it? 99.99% of all, they want to get all that in there, and then they want like all the creative stuff. It's just too much stuff. And so they want you to fit it in there, but don't sound like you're rushing. Don't rush, but fit it in there. It's overwritten. What? Yeah, that's why you're paid. So we beat it out of you. Take 1, take 2, take 3, and you're just running the raw. This is like the basic session. You're running one long, raw, high-end recording on your end. And just make sure it doesn't punch out. You're recording the master. You're doing what's called an audible slate. Take 1, take 2, someone, hopefully. It doesn't really have to be you. It shouldn't be you. A producer should be saying, oh yeah, take 1 is this, and they'll remember which take they like. And your deliverable at the end is you just send via, we transfer Dropbox, Hightail, Google Drive. You're sending the raw, and then you're done. That is like if they don't want you to stop and mark that yourself, which I'll get to in a second. So we basically get coverage. Blah, blah, blah. We get coverage. Okay, we're up 30 minutes in. And then at the end, so we don't have to edit it, we pray, maybe now they can get it all at once. So let's try to get it all at once. Let's try to get it all at once. Let's try to get it all at once. And then we'll do like an alt. Like, what's an alt? An alt is if the people responsible for producing it didn't give it to you last minute and didn't make a decision, we have to get like an alt read. And that alt read isn't really another tone. It's another way of saying either a brand or for syllable count. Like I'll give you an example of an alt that killed me. This is back in 2020. Are you going to say 2020, or you're going to say 2020? Or if it's 2026, you're going to say in 2026, in 2020. How are you going to say it? I don't know. Are you going to say luxury, or are you going to say luxury? I mean, in general, we say luxury because it's more expensive when we do the zh, and not the sh, but it also depends on the speed. And if we have more time, words like family is two syllables. Or if it's warm and slow, we say family. It's 3 syllables. If it's healthcare, our healthcare network family. So we get alts for that, for either pace or time or whatever, and we mark them. When I say we, not the talent, we mark them, and then we can go back and cut it up. And so you're doing audible slates. That's what that's called. Take 6, take 7, and then you're done. Then you dismiss, and then we chop it up, and it could air like the next day or that night in a really tight radio session, or even online. Like the due dates are really, really last minute. Or sometimes we have a few days out. Now it gets a little bit more complex. Tell me if I'm rambling, because the ADHD is strong in here. So basically one step above that, and this is why, people who are in voice acting, you really need to know how to cut audio. That was like the 1-track session. You were running the raw, but there are times when like, hey, can you play that back? Oh, now you got to play it back. Not just play it back for yourself. You have to have that bust so it plays back into the Zoom feed. And so the challenge is, for those of you who are on Logic and then also on PC with some recording, like if you're on SoundForge or other software, sometimes the recording software will grab the mic input, and then you got to be careful. You can't also push it out to Zoom so everybody hears it. That's why we do like an advanced, tech test. And then you need like an aux, or you need something like Source Nexus or a digital router in order to, I don't want to get too technical here, but you just have to know your setup. And so because you will be asked sometimes, hey, can you play back take three? And then you're playing back what you just recorded. That's if you're self-recording, and there's only like, it's called a Zoom patch or team patch session. This is like the basic. This is 50% of all commercial sessions that I've done, 50% of all commercial sessions. And you're playing that back. Now, if they're like, you know what, can you mark B? They'll ask for a triple. What's a triple? A triple isn't necessarily like the same thing read for coverage. It's three different ways within the same space. So if the triple is, hey, thanks for having me. Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, thanks. Thanks a lot. No, thanks a lot is wrong, but you have to have basically the same script coverage, different inflection. Why? So we can cut it up and choose later, because we don't want to choose now. Why? Because it's not a live session. And if they like the B take, you have to be able to mark that. You basically crop it, copy it, and paste it on a track that's lower, that's muted, and then you mark that region. You're responsible for that. Why are you responsible for that? Because there's no engineer on the session. You're your own engineer, at least on that like baseline session. So you have your main raw track, then you're going to punch in and do the raw. I like 23B. I like, yeah, 23 takes. I like 36A. And then ultimately you have two tracks. This is every voiceover session. You have two tracks. One is your raw. It's called capital RAW, raw coverage. And then below that, you would have we called it a select track, or back in the day, your hero track or your winner track. It just means we want those marked so we don't have to dig through everything later. Please don't make us dig. We want to be able to appreciate like a folder of audio when you so you export your raw, then you export a folder of all the other takes. They need to be labeled. They need to be labeled. It can't just be audio 1, 1_2, 1_3. Where are all my lazy audio engineers? No, no, no. All my lazy audio engineers in the chat. So that's not, so you just need to be able to move around your system and edit just a little bit. Like there's a marginal amount of like editing, even though, and it sucks, you're paid for your voice. And so again, remember that big word integration? It's all about integrating performance and a little bit of tech. So that's essentially a Zoom patch session. That Zoom patch session is for almost all narration, corporate narration that we do. That is for definitely commercial TV and radio, any kind of like online for something that is super intense, like dubbing. There's usually an engineer on the line, and I'm going to pivot to the more complicated, I don't want to say higher end, but like the other type of session, unless you have some questions on that, like Zoom team patch. What do you say?
Mm. I will pivot because this actually moves into another question, I would say, which I think that you can take more time to expand upon each genre of voiceover. But before I say that, man, one of the big reasons that I had you on today was because of how much time you do take to expound upon these questions upon like voiceover, man. And I find it to be very valuable because I do feel like that there's, this industry is not surface level. Definitively, it's not surface level. There's so much information to know about even the, topics of, what happens in a studio session, when it comes to auditions, when it comes to demos. There's so much to talk about within that genre. But to move on to my next question, which bleeds into what you were going to talk about, we're going to play a little bit of like a mini game, I'd say. And I feel like that you're a good person to play this game with, primarily because you have a great amount of knowledge about particular aspects of different genres of voiceover.
Sure.
Something that I see when it comes to people that just start or just are starting out voiceover is that they do not conceptualize just how much different genres of voiceover there is, whilst also not knowing what those genres are in terms of their definitions, what they mean.
Sure.
So I'm going to say a genre of voiceover and really quickly or, in depthly, however you want to do it, break that down to me in terms of its VO place in the industry. You play?
Sure. Forgive me, when you say place in the industry, you mean like how it works or just riff on it?
Just like how it works, how it operates, kind of more of a like beginner level, I'd say,
Sure.
interpretation or
Sure.
explanation, I'd say.
Sure.
Alrighty. We're gonna start a little bit more basic and then work our way down. We have commercial VO.
Okay, commercial feel. People think this is the holy grail because it's like a big payoff for like a really, really small amount of session time, but it is super, super competitive. There's commercial TV, the holy grail, and then there's commercial radio, and then also commercials that appear, let's say, on social media or other medium. Those are super short sessions. They get sent out to, I'd say, agencies, and those agencies have their roster, and you want to get on that roster if you can, because then you get fed auditions and you don't have to go looking for them on the online portals. So it's extremely competitive, and you got to bang it out. And so the working commercial voice talent is going through like they'll take a swing at the big ones, and it is a rough script. It's usually a 15 or a 30, and if it's a 15, you do an A and a B take when you audition. If it's a 30, it's like one take, and then you send it in. You do a slate and you send it in, and you don't think about it that much, because you have a lot of commercial auditions to bang out, and because it's so competitive. And the commercial spaces are, just think about all the things that you use. There is tech, there is automotive, there's fashion, there is like the wellness space. There's about 10 or 12 different spaces like that, and they're read with different pace, attitude, pitch, energy, enthusiasm, rhythm, melody. And the key to booking in those spaces is having like a large amount of range and to be able to almost sound like different people. That's like all VO. But again, super, super competitive. And there are some people that only do commercial. There's some people that have their toe in each different style of VO. But like that, the commercial that you hear on the radio, that is the person that was selected, maybe that beat out 50 other people on a national TV spot. Not only is it like, it's not just their best take, it's their best like composite take edited after everybody prayed over it with like licensed music. That's why it sounds so good. That's why they make so much money. And it can be anywhere from like, several $100s for like a radio up to thousands for a commercial TV. And if it's worldwide TV, like you're talking really, really big money.
Mm. Alrighty. Promo VO.
Okay, promo coming up next on CBS, coming up next on NBC. This is again super super competitive, and if you may or may not have a promo your promo reel is totally different than your commercial reel. Your commercial reel is about products. Promo is what's coming up next, and this is push and it's tight and it's in that. And you believe me, if you're a promo and it's practically barked at you. That's the promo ad space, and it is once you're known as a promo person, it's cool because you kind of get locked in. The holy grail actually is to like voice of channels are kind of eaten up right now, but there are smaller local channels or even like promos. I would even put promo in like radio imaging is its own thing, but there's a little bit of promo read on that where someone on like an internet radio station does like little promos. You're talking about like the promotion pushed space, and the process of booking is very similar to commercial. So I'll leave it there in terms of like auditioning for it and having the sound for it. But like, if you do not sound like you drank 3 Diet Cokes and you're standing and like ready to rock, you are not going to book promo. There are some promos that are kind of sassy and interesting, but generally speaking, it is that person that is just like very, very convincing, practically agitated, coming up next, that kind of thing.
Industrials.
Industrial, it's like a scary word, but like, how much, there's not a lot of soul in industrials. We're talking about corporate narration. We're talking about corporate training videos. And the usage for these is commonly hourly, like the buyout. For commercial, it's like it's based on use, but it's big money. Well, bigger money, and it's not by the hour. In general, corporate narration and training videos. What's a training video? A training video is, we used to have a huge account through third party with like every Toyota vehicle, where the salesman had to watch like a training video of, oh, make sure to point out like the trim on here, make sure on the puddle lights over here, make sure. And it's basically teaching, training, uh, information on the corporate narration or product side. So I would say there's less soul in it, although there, you try to find the art and you try to find the soul in it. I mean, you try to find what draws you to it. This is focused on clarity, not having like the most magnetic voice in the world. I would say there's a certain level of easy listening and tolerance and clarity. This is not for everyone. If you're slurry, it's not for you. Even like, honestly, pharmaceutical instruction manuals that need to be super clear about 500 milliliters, science, even some court narration I would put in that. And it's a thing, and it takes a lot of discipline and clarity. So the real challenge for that, the way that it's, even the mental space to audition for that, I would say, with the only exception of audiobooks, you need to have the headspace to just be clear and read flat, but not so flat it is completely boring. So you're just flattening it out. It's not about you. It's not about, oh, selling this product. It's about easily digestible information that honestly people probably don't want to listen to anyway.
All right. IVR.
Okay, IVR. This is like, it's going away a little bit because of TTS, but this is basically like phone prompts, different phone. This is a little bit. I've seen very little of this recently, at least through our company. This used to be like the on-hold prompts, for large companies when they would have phone menus and things like that. So if you have that kind of flat, almost like airport announcement voice, sits in the information space. Short prompts. I would say IVR is like the hybrid between the equivalent length of video game prompts and what I just said about corporate narration. So it's almost like corporate narration, emotion and intention, with the length and subject matter of like prompts. Not fun, super organized. On the engineering side, it is the worst. When I say I mean as an engineer, not even as talent, because you have to just cut that up and spit that out.
Mhm. We have now e-learning.
Okay, e-learning, again, e-learning, if you can tolerate the rate on this, these are generally lower rate, and, speaking, teaching information, usually, math, reading, whatever, English as a second language, engaging for kids, super clear voice, energetic. Unfortunately, the rate on these is used to be probably like we would almost roll back in the day, and there's a place for it, and I do want to talk about like multiple streams of income. But if you're doing e-learning, you're probably the voice of like X packet, and you get an Excel spreadsheet every like 2 weeks, and you got to bang it out, and you're doing it for 6 months if you're that voice. And so you're making it in volume, and you have to be able to read a single very clearly. When I say single, remember when I was talking about commercial VO, we beat it out of you over and over and over and over again. E-learning or like corporate narration, you want to get it in a single, and not necessarily do a double, because that just takes so much time. The whole idea, just like an audiobook, you try to get it clean in one shot, and you're practically self-producing. A lot of this is not directed e-learning. Some of it is, but a lot of it, because of the rate, is not directed. You are expected to bang it out.
Mhm. And then finally, audiobooks.
Audiobooks. Now, I'm audiobook adjacent, so a lot of this is secondhand. I've only produced maybe less than 10 audiobooks, mostly on the engineering and production side. I have a tremendous amount of respect for audiobook narrators, because they are spending hours a day alone in their booth, and it can be soul sucking. and they are responsible for essentially self-producing and self-monitoring. Sometimes they edit themselves, either higher end or like compartmentalized workflow. They get an editor, if the like an editing assistant, to basically like cut it up. You are reading for hours a day, anywhere from 50,000 words to 150,000 words. And again, broad strokes, it can be anywhere from several $100s a book to several $1,000s a book. Now, that's a wide swing, but the ability for you to earn money in that genre is based on your ability to bang it out and not make mistakes, and catch your own mistakes, because it'll be death by notes when you get that round of notes. And I do want to say this, I feel very, very passionate about this, just in general. Again, I'll expand if we have time later, particularly if you're entering the audiobook, narrator market. You must lead with the art and not with the money, for two reasons. One, there's not a ton of money. Two, this is somebody's art, and you are reading and adding your art, your voice on top of that art. I want to say it again because I feel very passionate about it. Somebody spent 2 years writing that book, and it wasn't ChatGPT. This is a person. And through either, ACX or whatever, or private lead, you are going to voice that book. Are you really going to bang it out to try to make it feel like a more expensive job? You cannot lead with that. You are adding your voice, your art to their existing art. And that's how you win with audiobooks, because you're making something that already should be special its own thing, and it can't be reproduced. One, because of whatever the content is, and two, because of the way that you brought it to life. So again, lead in general with this industry, but specifically with audiobooks, you have to lead with the art. And then I will say this for audiobooks, people who are starting to drag about audiobooks is the fidelity, the audio fidelity, the tolerance is different. You have to have actually, in most cases, a much tighter booth. When I say tighter, I mean better, like lower floor noise. The sonics need to be better for an audiobook, or really anything that doesn't have a music bed underneath. And I'm speaking as an experienced engineer. I've mixed hundreds of commercials and hundreds of pieces, probably thousands of pieces of content. If you don't have a music bed or SFX, sound effects, or some type of floor noise, the music is the glue. The music is the glue that sews it all together. If you, for audiobooks, I mean, unless it's like a audiobook turned radio play kind of thing, there's nothing underneath it, which means you hear not only the dog barking on the outside and the guy chopping down the tree and the lawnmower and the fan, you hear incandescent lights and the RF and the hum. And if you have a large condenser mic, you hear that room tone, that ring, and you're not going to work if you don't have a good space in audiobook. It's going to be a nightmare, hard to punch in. So I wanted to point out those two things. It's art on top of art, and there's no help. It's just you in the booth.
Mm.
So you're really self-directing, after initial direction, remote. And then the sonic requirements. You might think, wow, I didn't realize that the sonic requirements for audiobooks are higher end than like commercial VO. And I'm speaking as someone that like mixes national commercials. We make it bang with the music, and we also get so much coverage. We get so much coverage. We get it 6 ways sideways. So like, we're going to edit it. It's going to be great. But the audiobook, you're doing like one take with a line. It's got to be good. You don't want to do like 3 or 4 takes per line. It's just not done. So you have to be careful with that. That is, I'm speaking firsthand as an editor and producer of some audiobooks, but really secondhand based on the complaints from existing and, and trials and tribulations from existing audiobook narrators, many of whom I call friends.
Indeed. Well, to bleed into my next question, and this is kind of more talking about the audition aspect, particularly when it comes to commercials. What are some aspects of an actor's commercial audition that can make them stand out in comparison to the rest of the fleet?
Okay, well, if you are lucky enough to get an audition that comes your way, and that means you're either looking for an online portal or you're on a roster and you're getting fed an audition, you need to think about that audition in the context of the way it will be digested. And I'm speaking as someone who's on a team that reviews auditions every day. It's not, oh, does it sound good? Does it sound like me? You have to beat 20 other people at least, all of whom can read. So what's special about your voice? Like just that little interesting thing. And so I encourage people to listen to commercials and don't skip through them because that's the person that won and why. Try to imitate a variety of inflections and try to make very, very conscious choices of a beginning, middle, and end of an audition. I used to teach this. I used to teach voiceover for years, where it doesn't matter if you're that confident tenor, that confident bass never books. Where's the special? Take that risk, which is like a little bit of something on the beginning, or like, you grab it, you make it has to sound plausible. I'm not saying swing for the fences. This is different than, video game or animation, which I think we'll get to, but like in some where swinging for the fences is like outstanding. Uh, you can swing as long as it's on the same planet of the brand that you're auditioning for. And if it's a 15-second audition, you're doing an A and then a B, and your B is not just a different take of it. It's just got to be a different approach, a little higher, a little more animated, or like younger, more snarky, whatever. And it has to be special. Give them a reason to book you, not, oh, it's a plausible commercial. Because if I told you how many people, and I see them in the folder, they're always like number 2 to number 7, and they just haven't booked that big commercial because they're always beaten by a few people that always book because they know how to book. You never get a call if you're number 2. You never get a call. Number 2 is the same as number 19 out of 20 if there's like a folder of people. There's no like, oh, that was good. No one wants that call. Only one person gets called. That person who's number 1. And what makes you number 1? I mean, you have to basically sound compelling and you have to sound like an ad, but you have to have that extra special. And that extra special is the way you say the brand, the way you say the hook at the beginning, the way you kind of show a beginning, middle, and end. Uh, the way you might take a little risk, that little bit, that little effort on the H or whatever you got going on. It's got to be different. It's got to be special. Why? You got 20 other people killing it because they all want to book a commercial.
Mm, Without a doubt. We are flying through these questions. We got a couple more, and then we'll kick it off to our lovely people in the side chat. But to talk about home studio, how integral is an actor's home studio setup within the decision-making process of casting?
Okay, I'm super passionate about this because I see this is why people work and don't work. If you do not have the minimum requirements of like an external mic in a quiet space, you will never work. I want to say it one more time with a nice, warm, engaging response like this. If you don't invest a little bit in your space, you will never work. It doesn't mean you don't have a great voice. It doesn't mean you don't have a command presence. It doesn't mean you can't work. It means you won't. And here's the reason. And I'm speaking from like the eyes of the evaluators on the mid-level at least, or even on the online portals. Your audition or your demo, whatever you're recording in your space, in your setup, isn't just, oh, does it sound like your voice? It is being listened to in comparison to other people who audition. And if the first thing we hear is the space, like it's just a cavernous abyss, or it's not consistent because it's such a shouty mic, or we hear a lot of pops on the P's, or it's not a controlled environment. If we hear that, that's what we hear, as opposed to we hear the voice and the message of the brand, or the voice and the character. It it's not that the person isn't a thunderous bass or what. It's not. It doesn't mean that person isn't awesome. It means we can't appreciate the awesome if we're too busy listening to the space. And also, if when I say the space, too much space, too much reverb, The bedroom is too big. There's no carpet on the floor. The wall, the reflection wall, it really matters. And so you're looking at it about $400 of a setup, at least. Your mic, your interface, your headphones, maybe about $300 minimum. And people are like, can I use my gamer headset? It's generally not done. Not because we couldn't appreciate it, but like it just doesn't sound as open as an external mic. You can get a nice external mic for like 120, but you need that. You can't, the mic that I'm on, and I apologize, the mic that I'm on, like a built-in Mac mic, it's just, you can kind of hear the tinniness of that and it gets in the way of the evaluating process. You will not work. And I just want to say that. I think I said it 3 times. That's the challenge. Now, once you're above a certain threshold, once it sounds like once it sounds like an audition. And when I say sounds like I'm not talking about the quality of your voice. I'm talking about the sonics of the room. Once it's a reasonably quiet room with either, look, hanging clothes in a closet are freaking great. I'm an experienced audio engineer. I've set up hundreds of booths. Hanging clothes offer 2 things, absorption and diffusion. Let's go. Do you really want to get your laptop like in your head is like in between hanging sweaters? I mean, you can. I got national commercials with talent in their closet, but like they are experienced voice actors and they know how to use their space. Once you get there, then you're not pulled out of the running because of your space. So that setup matters. Now, if I spend $1,000 on a mic, yes, it is different than like a $125 mic, but it's mostly different in that it's more forgiving. And so there's a higher level of tolerance for certain things like room tone and or being off mic, that type of thing. But if you know how to work your mic, you don't necessarily need, especially if you're starting, the highest end mic. You can get in a few $100s, interface, microphone with your dog, get Audacity, it's free. Some foam or padding or carpeting in an alcove or closet, and then you'll work. That is the bare minimum. And it makes me sad when I see on the online profiles, or honestly, even some random auditions or even attempts at reels that come in. If the fidelity isn't there, it's not that it's hard to evaluate. I'll say this one more time. It means you're clearly not working, because you would work. You're clearly not working because it you would be pulled out of any folders specifically for sonics, because casting directors don't want to hire a risk. So fake it till you make it. Great. If your samples sound really good from a performance side and from a fidelity side, then it could be your first gig. They'll never know. But if your space screams, I don't do this, you won't do it. I'll leave it at that.
Mhm. And to bleed into this next question, because it is connective to it, and you talked about it very lightly in this conversation, but within the wide scale market of voiceover equipment, what could you recommend as beginner friendly for people that are just starting out to invest in?
Oh, sure. Well, Focusrite Solo is going to be like, just because a lot of people have it, there is a driver that you have to download for it. So many people have that Focusrite Solo. It's about, I'm sorry, Focusrite 2i2, or it could be the Solo 2. That is about 120, and then I have uh, you know, there's an AT 2020, and I would say it's like, some people think that it's marginal. I would not get a USB mic unless it also has XLR uh, connectors, because the XLR will go into your interface, and then it will be a little bit more forgiving. I believe that there's like an A1 mic. Oh my gosh. You could get into like people like the podcast mic, the SM7B, but that is about $500, and then you need a cloud lifter with that because of the impedance. Another 150 starts to add up. You can get the Sony MV7-7, is, or MV7. I apologize, I don't know which one it is, and that is almost like a baby SM7B. I think, I wouldn't say they're interchangeable, but if you spend like 130 on a condenser mic with the Focusrite 2i2 or Focusrite Solo, you're going to be okay. And I'm speaking like, I've got dozens of talent on that Focusrite interface. With any mic, the mic is almost arbitrary at that point. To be honest, the space matters more than the mic. I want to say that one more time. You got no business buying an $800 mic and not treating your space. So first things first, get that alcove or that closet, like dampen the space, and then you can work. Get rid of incandescent lights, or just be careful about that, and spinning hard drives. You want that interface. I think I've probably purchased like 100 of those interfaces and drop ship them to talent.
Holy. Well, heck yeah. We know we're flying through these, which is great because we're doing great on time. But what are some aspects of an actor's commercial demo reel that can separate them from having what it takes versus not having what it takes?
Okay, I'm super passionate about this, among other things, because I used to produce reels. I also evaluate reels every week just because we have to. Your reel is your ticket. You're not. Uh, People have samples, but a reel makes it easier for the evaluator to just what see what's in store. And your reel is very specific, and it's by genre, unfortunately. I am not a fan of like the basic general VO reel, and I have some very strong, harsh opinions on there are training and coaches and sessions and packages you can buy where at the end they kind of give you a generic VO reel. They can give you a taste, but that's actually frowned upon by a lot of casting directors, because if you're casting for narration, you want to hear a narration sample. If you're casting for commercial, you want to hear a commercial reel. They're separate entities. They're separate things. They're sales tools. So your commercial reel, there is music underneath every spot. Why? When's the last time you heard a commercial with no music? You've never heard it. Maybe a little bit of sound effects on like advanced Genifique, serum, dual concentrate. If it's like if it's like a facial cleanser kind of thing. It is 58 seconds to about a minute 3, your commercial demo. Not more than that. We don't need to hear more than that. It needs to bang. That means it needs to be loud. If you're an engineer, it needs to be at like -14 LKFS. But like, you basically play another reel and make sure that your reel is loud enough. The music needs to be at an appropriate level, although it's not mixed as high as music might be mixed by like a music engineer. And I come from music, so be very careful hiring a music engineer to do your voiceover reel. The music will be too loud. It's just tucked in a little bit lower because it's about you. So here it is. It is, I want to say, between 6 and 9 small little pieces of different commercial content. What do you mean? How can you get 7 to 8, 9 different pieces in a minute? They're all super short. Why are they so short? Because once I hear 5 seconds of you reading in the yellow cell, let's go. Once I hear that, I don't want to hear another 10-second. I don't want to hear a 15-second sample of you doing yell and cell. Like, I only need a few seconds, so it's got to be cropped. It's got to be a nice little piece of, I don't know, 5 to 7 seconds of you way up there, way up there. And then if you want to do retail kind of here, if you want to do kind of medium tempo kind of here, you have that. And then if you want to do automotive, a Jeep Cherokee, but if you're a guy like that, it's a different space, different music. That might be with rock music. The yellow cell might be more animated. And then you've got your healthcare, which is slower. And healthcare doesn't have a lot of sell. It's warm, because you sell by informing and caring with healthcare, and even slower than healthcare. And kind of sad is your public service announcement, because again, it'll get you hooked. That's just the stuff. So there's a difference of, wait for it, a variety of pace, pitch, attitude, energy, enthusiasm, melody, rhythm, volume. You need to see that variety within the spot selection in a minute. It's all these little pieces, and it's tight, 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 edited tight. The first spot, when I say spot, the first piece of a spot, it needs to kill. It needs to kill. If it doesn't kill, they're not listening to the rest of the reel. And I know, because we listen to reels. And when I say I'm talking about the first few seconds. If it doesn't scream, if it doesn't sound like a legit commercial over the appropriate music, and then cut to something else, They're not going to listen to the rest of the reel because this person is not ready to work. After that first spot, that's maybe it's up here, then the second spot is a little bit different. This when I say the second section of the spot from like, I don't know, 6 seconds into, 13 seconds, it's something else. That just shows like a different style of performance. It should be so different if you can. So different, it almost sounds like a different person. Almost. If you can do
Mhm.
that, then it's all about range. So after the first couple of pieces, it's all about range. That's what it presents. If you have range, why do we need to hear range? It shows you're directable. Because in a session, you audition, you kind of sound like the orange juice voice. You kind of sound like you're ready to sell, fabric softener, but maybe we want it a little faster. We don't know that you can read faster or slower than the audition unless maybe we have the reel. So the reel is your ticket onto a roster. That gets you auditions. If you don't have a reel and you're auditioning, I think your time is better spent on your reel. I'll say that.
Mhm. 100%. And, for our, I would say, yeah, final question before we kick it off to the chat. And I saved this one for last because it is something that it's very loaded, I feel. But it is something I personally would like to know and I think would be very insightful for other people to know. And I would also classify this question to be one that you can really rip into if you really wanted to. But how much has the industry for voiceover evolved and changed over the time you've been in it?
It has like rebirth and there have been different manifestations, like 3 or 4 times completely changed. And I'll give you an example in every way possible. For the most obvious change is, well, first of all, the length of demos. It used to be 3 minutes. A commercial demo used to be 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Now it's 1 minute. Uh, Now there are so many different subgenres. The tech changed. That's the first thing. COVID changed, and it's not going back. COVID changed the tech where everyone was just working remotely. And for a while, the Sonics were so bad, you could hear it on TV. It's like, oh my gosh, that was done in a remote setup. Now people have their act together, but all auditions, almost every audition is remote. Whereas, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, almost every audition was in person. So just think about that, at least for us. Um, uh, I think hustle culture is more of a requirement than ever in voiceover now because this is what I love about what you do and your channels and your energy is that you can go way deep in VO. I mean, I am an authority on the aspects of VO with which I'm familiar. I mean, we book a certain type of VO, but I'm older. I'm 50, and I just started a TikTok channel 2 months ago. I mean, I'm new media is not my thing. I mean, we've directed and produced for social media, but the way that people are getting gigs, the way that people navigate, like in terms of selling yourself, the way that people connect is completely different now than several years ago. So that's another way it's different. It used to be you needed an agent and you came in and you did your audition and they just fed you auditions. You didn't even need to update your reel because once you had an agent, once you had 3 or 4 different agents on different sections of the country, they just fed you auditions. And then, you know, Voice123, voices.com, Badalgo, these portals came up and it's like, wow, I need to feature, I can have my stuff everywhere. And there are positives and negatives about the different portals, but there's nothing like hustle, there's nothing like energy, and there's nothing like selling yourself. And you need that a lot more now, personality wise, than you needed it before. Before, your voice could do the talking. You listen to that voice, we'll beat it out of them. I want that voice. Here, it's like voice comes, commensurate with the attitude and the hustle culture. So there's that thing. What else has changed? All I'm a big fan of like all the different varieties of engineering packages out there. As an experienced Pro Tools thug, I can tell you it doesn't matter what software you use. It's just a tool. And you might think that I'm like, oh, you got to do Pro Tools, you got to do Audition, you got to do Audacity, Sony Vegas, you got to do Sound for it. I know actually most of them because I have to, but work with what you have. I got a bunch of people on GarageBand. It works for them. Uh, it's important that you are familiar with your workstation and that you know how to get from A to B. You're comfortable and it doesn't slow you down, doesn't get in the way. That's all. That's it. So that used to not be the case. It used to be you had just just Pro Tools or just something else, or you came in. Now almost anything goes. One other way it's changed: remote setups. What? Now you have to be really careful about doing a job remote. I don't want to say remote setups, travel setups. I take that back. You working voice talent, the beauty about the gig is you can audition from almost anywhere, which means like you're never, almost never missing out on a job. I I have, I don't want to say dozens, but maybe there's a couple dozen talent. Their travel rig is certainly good enough to audition with. They go to the Grand Canyon, and if they get like a last minute audition, they'll pull off to the side of the road and they'll bang it out. Or if they're in a hotel, they'll duck into the closet and like send out that audition. That used to never happen. Now it's like standard fare. It's great to have a travel setup so you don't miss out on that audition. So these are things that are brand new over the last few years. And if you're not able to adapt to change, if you don't welcome change, and I'm speaking as a guy who's 50, like relatively media savvy for a 50-year-old guy. I'm learning things from my daughters who are her and I like, Dad, you don't do that. Let me help you with your Discord. I mean, the way people network, the way people record, and the way people just work will change one more time over the next 3, 4 years. And you have to have your ear like to the ground, or you have to have your ear to the pulse of the industry and find out. That's why it's great that you have this Discord, this channel. Find out what other people are doing, see if it's right for you. Because nobody knows everything. I mean, there you can go way, way deep, and it's going to change again. So I'll just say that.
Without a doubt. So firstly, man, I want to thank you. And the reason why there's, these questions are very minimal is I feel like that we could literally sit here for 3 days and talk about voiceover and not stop. And I would personally enjoy that a lot. But, I feel like that having you in other environments where you can also share your input would be just as informal. But I thank you. And with that said, I'm gonna kick it off to our side chat. I'm gonna read a couple of questions that we have here, and then afterwards we'll end it off.
Sure.
But we have our first question from K.E. Gat. They say, I'm a bit older than Ross and just starting out. Any specific advice for older newbies?
Great question. But first of all, you're never too old to start. Um, get get into the tech right away. It's going to be painful because it's just not something that like we grew up with. And when I say the tech, yes, your setup, and but the way that you go about getting work and finding out about work. I mean, you're obviously in the right place if you're in with the energy and information in this chat. But different social media channels, you can basically like invade or just follow certain people in social media and get almost all information. It's there. You just got to find it. Don't be shy about your age, and because there's a market for every voice. Why? Because all ages of people buy products. So and also a lot of people, if you're as old as I am or older than I am, our age demographic, like we have an aversion to tech. So in some ways, there's less competition than with some of the older voices. The people that are booking like 50 plus, 60 plus year old VO, there's not a lot of 50, 60-year olds doing it. It's people who are 45 trying to age it up, and they don't do a good job aging it up. So there's actually less competition. There might be, I want to say fewer jobs, a little bit less, but especially if you have range, don't be shy about that. And it's not how old you are, it's how old you sound. So especially if you can like tweak it up there, then you have a big range, do your thing. But narration with gravitas for sure. Um, uh, Luxury brands, healthcare, all older people. Mortgage company, finance industry, No one under 30 is like the voice of a bank, unless it's just like, I'm learning about this ATM kind of thing. Look, money isn't funny, and you need a bunch of money and a mortgage in order to talk about it. So like, you're doing great, and I wish you well. Uh, and I would say be open to the pain of learning the tech.
Mm, 100%. With our next question, we have Frankie. They ask, with some of the tight deadlines like that night, how do you accommodate VAs dealing with a chronic illness flare up? So essentially, just like how do you deal with VAs and accommodate VAs, or if there is accommodation for VAs in terms of deadlines when it comes to specific situations that they might deal with in terms of emergencies?
Outstanding question, and it happens a lot. So the first thing is, be honest. Like, if you're coming up on a cold, like, we don't want to hear that you're a little bit stuffy during the session, and we can hear it. You be honest with your rep. You be honest with the people that booked you. Honesty goes a long way. Uh, Talent, everybody says, "Oh, I'm available. I'll make it work. I'll do this. I'm fine. I'm fine." Honesty is the best policy, because we'll get pissed if we don't have that information. In general, if you book the job, we will move mountains to wait for you, up to and including, like, trying to push back the ad date. Why? Because it took so much to decide, to weigh in. Nobody wants to go to alternate talent. Oh my gosh, now we got to choose again. So they'll work for you. Be open about it. And you know your voice. You know if you're nasal, and an engineer can hear it, and the producer can hear it. You just have to tell them. So, with tight deadlines, communicate that you're not feeling well and your travel dates in advance. It's called, if you're traveling, it's called like a book out email. Just FYI, I'm booking out this and not available, blah, blah, blah. That does two things. If you send a book out email, it's actually like, I mean, do we really look at the book out email? I mean, kind of, it reminds us that you're there. And also, you work so much that you have to email people that you need a book out. So if, like, so you send people your book out emails. Wow, this guy works a lot. He's sent it to everybody. So we will try to work. When I say we, I'm talking about the anybody that books voiceover. You do not want to recast. There are some times, especially if it's interchangeable, that they just have to go to someone else. And you know what? The honesty is more important than like that particular gig. Like, for like a dubbing thing, if you're not a lead character and it's like a background thing, like, they're going to get someone else to do it if there's a deadline. But if you let them know, they will move mountains. The majority of my day is in administration, and that administration is a combination of like payments, booking, schedule, tech. And I would say it is exceedingly rare that somebody misses a job if they're just sick for X amount of time. I mean, if they have like mono and they're out for 2.5 weeks, then it's another conversation. But I implore you, be open and honest with the person that booked you. Even if you, for whatever reason, missed that gig, they will feel so bad that they had to get somebody else. They'll bend over backwards and get you another gig.
100%. And this next question, oh man, I love it when people expound upon their questions. It makes me happy. But this one's coming from Ethan Young. As someone who's incredibly passionate about growing in this craft, I'm curious about what you listen to beyond a good voice when directing actors. When a performance isn't quite landing yet, what adjustments or creative shifts tend to unlock something truthful and compelling? And what advice would you give newer voice actors on how to stay open, adaptable, and collaborative in those moments?
Outstanding question with multiple parts. Forgive me if I ADHD on the first part. Remind me of the second part. Uh, so I'm going to give you a variety of like the let's say the direction that to beat it out of talent. First of all, on a directed session, nobody is getting booked that we can't work with. We know we can beat it out of you, and we will. Between 1 and 7 people on Zoom patch, getting it 6 ways sideways. And so I'll give you an example of it in like a hyper, because I'm privy to this and I also do it. It's like, You have to be able to separate your dials. Your dials are, pace, how fast and slow. Like the people who don't win in terms of booking and working in sessions are people that can't separate your dials. So just because I want it faster doesn't mean I want it higher. I just want it fast. I just want it fast. I just want it faster. And just because I want it faster doesn't mean I want it louder. So pace is separate. Like if someone says faster, you only give them faster. If someone says slower, you only give them slower. Slower doesn't mean lower pitch. Slower doesn't mean sad and mopey. Slower just means slower. You have to separate that dial. Different rhythm, like just, and again, higher pitch only means higher pitch. It doesn't mean faster. And a lot of amateur voice talent, they have that locked together. Like faster is always higher pitched, is always higher volume. That's because of lack of control and lack of experience. And so, listening to all different types of voiceover, like going to iSpot TV and listening to commercials, instead of fast forwarding, it'll change your life. And then trying to imitate other voices, that's what I recommend doing. But I'll give you an example. It's like, can you just take 3 Diet Cokes and do it again? Here we go. Pretend someone's chasing you. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, hold on a second. I want a little crack and glide. I want you to wait, and then breathe out after that. How many syllables is that? Pretend there's one more syllable, one more syllable. Deep breath, deep breath. Hold on, hold on. You're out of breath. You're out of. You got to tank up, and go. Hold on a second. You're picking it up because you made a mistake. Hold on. No need to apologize. We love you here. Just relax. All you got to do is stop, deep breath, pick up from the previous comma. Let's go. Hang on. Go, dude. Relax. Take 5. Take some water. And if I have it on mute, hang on a second. I'm going to mute the client. Hey, you know what? We're just going to take 5. Dude, listen, you're super tight right now. This is like me talking to a talent, and I muted the feed to the client. Listen, we're all on your side. It seems like we're scrutinizing. We're just getting it 6 ways sideways. Just relax, relax, relax. Everything is tight. It's front. It's nasal. Just tell me a story. Just talk to me. Just me. I know you're spending the money in your head. Relax. We love you. I'm going to beat it out of you. You're here until you're gone. You want to get home? Relax. Come back. Water? Let's go. Say hi. Like just various different, being able to receive random direction from the same sentence and being able to deliver it in different ways and not get caught up in all the subtext. What's the subtext? All the conversations in your head that have nothing to do with winning. I'll explain that. All the conversations in your head that have nothing to do with the copy, which is the text and the direction. Like, what are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Who are you? What's the brand? What's the product? What's the direction? The subtext that interferes is, how am I doing? How am I doing? All right, I'm a little dry. The subtext is, I got to return that email. The subtext is, oh man, I don't think they like this. I don't think they like. The subtext is like, oh wow, this is going to pay like $750 and I could be like the voice of the brand. And I get rid of all those side emotional like conversations in your head. Just do your job. Own the script in either, commercial, character, whatever. Be who they want you to be. You're being paid, and act like a professional. A professional takes direction without being like incensed. Don't feed me the read. I get a lot of pros that are like, Ross, I got it. Because I interrupt for a living. I got it. I don't need you to feed me the read. I'm like, I'm feeding you the read because you're not getting it. Relax. So being okay with that level of direction and back and forth and being familiar with the general differences in direction, which is what I said again. They're going to want it changed in any number of ways, and you have to practice doing that. If one last piece on that before I go to the second part of the question, which I may have forgotten, is if you're not for people that are new, if you're not reading every day, you're not going to work. One more time. How do I read? You're practicing reading not practicing speaking, very different. Practicing reading and sounding like you're not reading every day. This is for working voice actors too. Working voice actors don't really need to practice that much because their practice is their audition. They're auditioning for an hour or more a day. You're not getting auditions because you're brand new. You have to read random auditions, random copy, read out loud, go to Amazon and read the page of the product, read it. And then no set of successive syllables is going to trip you up. And you're going to be able to read faster and slower in any combination because you've read those syllables before. How have you read them before? Because you read every day.
Mhm. And then to remind you of the second half of the question, Ethan said, what advice would you give newer voice actors on how to stay open, adaptable, and collaborative in those moments?
Wow. Well, when you say newer, nothing beats piggybacking off. Like this is really for everyone, but newer people, find someone that's like one or two clicks more experienced than you that you can latch on and like be like a workout partner with. In terms of staying open, it's very hard to know how to respond in the moment. I mean, I might be oversimplifying some things. And look, it's super easy for me to say, "Hey, do it like this," and blah blah. I mean, I interrupt people and I beat them up for a living. And I'm not voice talent. I'm terrible. I have this like East Coast nasal rasp, and I just sound like I'm terrible. But you have the voice. It is understanding what they really mean. What does somebody really mean when they say, like when someone says 5% faster, like stay open to like a little faster, 30% faster, a click fast. It all means the same thing. It just means a little faster. But like what does a little bit faster mean? It doesn't mean that, but it means just incrementally faster. And that's control and experience. And unfortunately, if you're brand new, you don't have that speaking and adjustment experience. So all you have to do is don't get offended and don't get in your head. Like so in terms of, from what I understand the question, be open to inspiration during the session, like if you're working your first session, uh, and also during your auditions, be open to really listening. And I mean, I'm saying this as an engineer. Nobody listens. I mean, nobody listens the way you're really supposed to listen. I mean, you can listen to the reason they keep you in the booth for a long time to beat it out of you is they want it a certain way and they're going to get it. And you're not dismissed until they get it. And the key to being like the voice of the brand is getting there faster. Most people are worried about their first session. It's a lot harder to book than it is to work in a session. In a session, we will beat it out of you. We're going to get it. In an audition, you just got to get there faster. You're directing yourself. So listening to what interpreting what they really mean. When someone says, "Oh yeah, can you give it a little flair?" What does this guy mean? Can you make it a little more purple? What does this guy mean? Directors are crazy. They're just talking. Sometimes they're giving you a note to fill space. Um, I love the fact it's worded really well, like to be open. Your ego leaves at the door, even if you're working voice talent. You're getting paid and you want to get paid. You want to do more work with them. It's a relationship and you're working together. The second that you're booked, people are, I don't think I'm that intimidating. Talent get very intimidated when I'm on the line and I remind them about certain things. But I also say, hey, once you book, I work for you. Like they send the audition our way, but like once they book, engineering, directors, and editor, if they're all we're trying to get it out of them, and you just get rid of those nerves. And it's like and think team and dress, even if you're not seen in your head, dress and act like the position you want, not the position you have. You know more and you have a better ear than you might. Like it's so hard that confidence is really hard to like light that fire underneath someone. Even the way that you ask that question shows me that you're really dialed in as a creative. I mean, that unless it was a chat GPT question, which I don't think it was, that's an outstanding question because most people are like, well, I have a great voice. What do I do? Oh, come on. It's like really understanding session dynamics, the not necessarily power play, but like what are they asking you to do? What is being asked for in the script? How can I give them what they want? And thinking like a pro athlete, because the nerves that like pro performers, pro athletes, pro artists, pro singers, like the nerves that you and I might have if we don't do this as often as we might do it, we feel that as nerves that might interfere with our ability to produce. But like NBA, like like Olympic athletes, Olympic skiers, they feel those nerves and that makes them do better, not worse. So, and again, the only way to like convert that is experience with, which again, if you're starting, you don't have. So just shake it out and find the art and And again, digest what's being asked before you get scared, if that makes sense. This is any direction live in a session, or any direction on an email that's like a casting. Like so many people, they don't really read it. Like if it says 30-year-old female, it's a liquor company, sounds like they rolled out of a bar, but like not saucy. Like you could spend 3 minutes thinking about what that sounds like, or you could spend 10 seconds and just be the copy, be the direction, and give it a shot. But what you can't do is not think about what they want and how you can give them what they want. I'll leave it at that.
100%. And this next question coming from Alex Juson. I come from film commercial land, and in those, there are a buyout of our image for X amount of years, usually 2 to 3 years after the commercial in question finishes airing, and you can't do another commercial for a product in the same category/industry for that time. Are there similar buyouts for your voice, and how long do they average?
That's a good question. Okay, in my world, and I'm in the non-union world, it is the Wild West, and most jobs are non-exclusive. Occasionally, the bigger jobs will say, if it's a pet food company, you can't you can't have voiced something for another pet company in X number of years because they don't want it to sound like they're just making their job easier. They don't want to book someone for a competing product. Uh, the time frames, if you could believe it, are like, well, for social media time frames, which is in the commercial space, uh, 3 months, 1 week run, event run, 6 month run, 1 month run, sorry, 1 year run, 2 year, 5 years. I mean, perpetuity gets really weird because that's just the P word and you don't want that. But there are things like, you know what? I'll talk about that. Usually it's like 1 or 2 years if it's like an online. The way commercials come out, it can either be a radio spot or terrestrial or streaming. It can be TV. Sometimes there's like a lift to social, YouTube pre-roll, ad pre-roll. If it's social media, there's like, it's going to be X posting, but then they want to leave it forever in the organic feed. That's different than paid social, just so you know. They're going to want to leave it in the organic feed kind of thing. But people who are afraid of like, wow, it's a buyout for like 3 years or 5 years, or I don't want to do perpetuity. And I may get some hate for this. Like, figure out what's right for you. But in general, the reason that they want it like a longer buyout in terms of time horizon, it's not because they want to like gouge the voice actor and not pay you. It's because they don't know what's going to happen and they want to just get it done and not revisit it. In general, the creative director is going to change. They're going to change their branding. It's not going to be forever. I can't tell you how many times it's been like a 2 year buyout and they pay in advance and it's like a 2X job, or sometimes it's 10% more the second year. Sometimes it's negotiated. So like 1 year is X, 2 years is 1.5X. It's like, okay, do you want to do the job or not? And I'm part of those negotiations, unfortunately. And in the end, if it's good money, you just try to make it work. You just try to make it work, bang it out, do the next job. Um, they will reach around and rebrand, and so they paid you for 2 years and only used one. I see that all the time. So it's kind of a crapshoot, but uh, in my world, I want to say that almost doesn't happen. It's almost never like an exclusive thing. They're going to pay you more because they're boxing you out of other working. In general, my advice is, unless it's really big money, you do not want to sign something that prevents you from working in another space. So I'm not sure if you have, a detailed follow-up for that question, but my understanding is like it's like 2 or 3X to be exclusive, or it's big money in general to be okay. You can't do, I don't know, be in the toothpaste space. Well, that's such a tight space. I would just do it. You're telling me you're going to book another toothpaste commercial from a competitor? Probably not. Come on. Now, if it's Listerine, is that in the same space? I don't know. I think I do think it's a legitimate question, but I think it's if you have the problem of asking that question, you work a lot. You're awesome. I want your job. Uh, so it's the Wild West in terms of time frame and in terms of rate. So, ask around. If I told you I got the same job pitched to me that, and sometimes we'll do it, again, depending on the end client, that's, several $100s to like $2,000. Same job. Ross, why would you accept that? I'm trying to get people work. Um, why would it be 2,000? If it's a bigger end client, yeah, come on, they can afford it. Come on. And uh, or or if I think that it might be like if I think it might be a voice of a brand, if it might go to a campaign, I'll put out something not dirt cheap, but cheap. Why? The key to work is more work, and we make money by booking talent. Usually the talent rate, we're like 10% above the talent rate, maybe 20, but usually 10, sometimes a pass through. Why would you do a pass through? Because we make it on the engineering. So I'm trying to get the jobs pushed forward because we kill on the engineering. We charge a retail rate for live sessions and then we finish it in audio post. So so we get, and then we might do like music library, music editing fee. So it's in my best interest to say yes to that job that might seem like the usage is a little tweaky. And I might get some hate for that. But again, I said no to 2 or 3 jobs this month. I'm being super honest here. And I was like, you know what? I don't think we can put this out, but I know if you go to Voice 123, you'll get some bites and it might be roulette, but give it a shot. And the client put it out there. Now they do
Mm,
some bigger stuff too. They do some bigger stuff too, but there has to be a justification for us to do it. Otherwise, we call it like churn, and we do a certain amount of churn. I'm ADDing a little bit, but but um, you will see every single type of usage in the non-union market. And the only way to navigate like what a job is it reasonable, is to be generally familiar with what usage pays. And that again, it's like I after you look at a certain number of jobs, you get a feel for it. And I can talk about that a little bit, but there is the GVAA2 rates, and I'll put this out there because I know that that's like a template for rates. Those rates are on the very high side. They're on the very high side. And I push a lot of jobs that are honestly half of those rates. Not a quarter, but sometimes half of those rates. In the end, you want to work. So don't put you in a situation where you're preventing yourself from working. I'll leave it at that.
mm, 100%. And, we have a couple more questions, maybe like 3 or 4 left. But we have one from my homie, Christoph Gray. He says, on my path as an audio engineer slash ADR engineer, how do I start making connections with people or get experience in my local area for audio engineering? I am debating on if I should go to college for audio just to get the opportunity to intern with places like Bang Zoom. But I don't know what my options are, so it's hard to make that education leap.
Okay. I have some really strong opinions about this because we receive uh, resumes for internship from Full Sail, University of Michigan, Brown, Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, LA Film Recording Studio. And, do I need to be Pro Tools certified? It's a lot of money to throw at an audio engineering degree, especially if you've already like gone to school. I think that the majority of that can be learned on your own from the wonky tutorials on YouTube, and they get super wonky. But like those are audio engineers, you can learn almost anything there. But nothing replaces working on program material. Program material is you're cutting audio day and night. Also, you need to be, I don't know if you're a Logic guy or an Ableton guy. Pro Tools is it for audio engineering. You need to live and breathe Pro Tools. You also need to be familiar with Isotope. All of our guys are in Pro Tools more often than they're in like Word or like Google Docs, and they live and breathe that. The only way to figure out how to be like how to function as a competent engineer is to work on cutting audio. How do I cut audio if I'm not cutting audio? You find to your point, find independent film projects, find student projects, and offer your services, whether it's low pay or even no pay if you're starting. Learn on program material because there's nothing like it. The biggest problems I see from students that graduate from those programs, and those programs, they're not $5,000. Those programs are in the tens of thousands of dollars. And they come in with some lab experience, but the people who kill, they're doing their own personal projects. So they're like, if you've recorded your own band or a friend's band, or what, I mean, cutting vocals is very similar to cutting voiceover or audio post, and pivoting to audio post is very, very natural. Uh, I come from music. I've edited hundreds of hours of a podcast, and if I told you that I can't even talk about that. My first editorial experience with a podcast, uh, I edit for Mike Rose, The Way I Heard It. It's a top 100 podcast. We turn out at least one episode a week. I got, let's just say, flogged by Chuck Klossmeyer, the producer. I was editing it too tight. I wasn't letting it breathe because I come from commercial, and that had nothing to do with like learning Pro Tools and like getting the gig. And it was like I was not the right guy for the job. And he had a very strong conversation with me. And then, now I can roll out of bed and do it. But I didn't realize that there's a certain flow. I was trying to cut out every and but like then it was just wrong. You got to let it breathe. That has nothing to do with learning Pro Tools shortcuts. That has to do with I had never really edited a podcast before. And I was like poo-pooing it as like a medium because I come from film, TV, and long form narration. So how do you get those gigs? Find a friend that's producing a nascent podcast. You have to be in that editing platform every day. No lie. Just like I say, you need to be voicing every day if you're a voice actor. If you are not in your DAW every day, you are like cutting something, it's ideally something different, like not just music or something like that. You are not experiencing the different things that are being asked of you, whether it's like comping, exporting, de-essing, denoising, time stretch, pitch shift, whatever. The same thing happens every session. The way that you know that you're an outstanding audio engineer is you don't want to be one. Because the same thing happens every time. But it's decent money if you can get a regular gig. So will will that degree get you into Bang Zoom? I don't think so. I think your resume, your CV of all the other projects that you've done will get you into that because uh, people who are right out of recording school are super green and they haven't worked out all the kinks and they've only worked on like labs. Uh, our CEO, I mean, I fight with him about this. Our CEO is like, no one under 30. And I'm like, what? It's like they don't have the kinks worked out. I mean, I broke that rule a few times, but he wants the kinks worked out. If you're under 30, I'm not saying that he wouldn't or I wouldn't or someone wouldn't consider you, but like if you have film credits, and when I say film credits, indie film credits to me are bigger than big film credits. Why? Because the amount of work that you have to do as an editor on that indie film is a lot is a lot more than you would do if something is recorded pristine. But what happens on an indie film? They're barely paying that kid to hold the boom mic at the actor, and it's not even held right. So if you've worked with crappy audio on indie projects and practically not been paid, to me that's better experience than I worked on the Sony lot and blah. I've worked with those guys. They're great. First of all, they want a lot of money, but second, they're not used to working so hard and digging out the EQ and all that kind of stuff. So again, I'm not exactly sure where your experience level is. Experience trumps education on the job all the time, especially if you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars worth of loans. But if you have your CV, why don't I have it? Let's go.
Heck yeah. Alrighty. So this next question comes from Kiki. For someone hypothetically coming from Virginia trying to go to LA for voiceover, at what point in experience and skill do you think they need to have even to be considered when going against the big fish over there?
Okay, you don't need to move unless you want to. Like, don't go to LA for the voiceover in LA. It's all remote. One more time. One more time. You you're like a satellite. That's the way that voiceover has transitioned like since COVID, and it's not going back ever. Why? Because no one wants to get up and go to the studio. There are some times for ADR sessions where you'll come, like for Disney or so, like you'll come to the lot kind of thing. We do have a place in Burbank. We bring people in, but there's software where an engineer sends like a remote high res feed and you click on it and you're recording from your booth. So you don't need to move unless you want the beautiful LA weather, no need to move. I say that with the strongest emphasis. But since you're not there, that means your website, that has, and or your social media or where however you market yourself, your samples needs to be tight. Your reel does the talking. It's not people that send their reel and their samples. It's like it's fluffy. Well, our casting director gets this a lot. I'll share this. Some women say, I was the voice of Barbie. And you know what he says? Everyone was the voice of Barbie. He doesn't care. He wants to hear your voice. So he yells at me, oh, you better hear this guy. He's done this and this and this. Ross, send me the sample. I don't want So you're fine in Virginia. Do your thing.
Mhm. Alrighty. Now, this next question comes from Alouette. Their question is, what is an appropriate way to guarantee quality with a home/DIY booth? I use a NT1 and Focusrite 2i2 right now with a treated room. I just like to know what I can do to maximize efficiency and quality. Rather, what are some cheap methods to semi-achieve studio quality?
Okay, you're already there. I think you're good with your mic. I don't know how big the booth or room is, but you want to make sure that you have carpet there or foam or whatever you've got treated there. Uh, After that like baseline of your room is set, it's very important that you either get it together on your own or you liaise with an engineer and get your template together. Your audition template is like the next step, which means that your when you submit your audition, you're not uh, the people that book a lot, they're not just submitting a raw audition, and I don't mean cutting it up. They are high passing above 70 hertz, and they're adding a certain amount of EQ, maybe a little bit of DS or compression or declick or whatever that is, and making sure that the level bangs, doesn't sound distorted, compressed, or too loud, but has enough of that juice to make it compete. And when I say compete, I mean this as an engineer. If something is louder, it can sound more confident, especially when compared to another audition that was played immediately prior to your audition. So you need to make sure that the sonics, after it goes mic, interface, analog digital converter in the interface, goes into your workstation. That's not what you send, even when you cut it up. You really have to treat that a little bit, and that template, eh, it can be done on your own, but I would really liaise with an engineer and get it right for your voice in your room. And then you have that template. That's what you do on almost every audition. You get familiar to the way that you work your mic just a little bit, uh, and then you're going to work uh, your mic and your interface in like a decent, uh, closet turned booth. You don't need to do anything else other than maybe make sure that I don't know if you live near a freeway or if you're in a condo and your neighbor's yelling, you're probably all ready to go. It's that audition template that processing that you put your audition through. That's not too much. You don't want to spank it too much because then it sounds like you're killing it. Like a lot of guys who are automotive guys, like my age, everything is blah. And it's like, dude, you're just crushing it. You sound like you're eating the mic. You're over compressing it. We have them back it off. That's like old school. But in general, if it's not loud enough, you're going to book less. So I'll leave it at that.
Mhm. Alrighty, and for our final question, I'll kick it off to Mars. They say, as a beginner, should I offer my services for free as a way to establish myself and build a portfolio?
Well, uh, Well, who are you offering the services to? I would say this: opportunity equals future pay. So yes, until you're paid, until your first paid gig, you are voicing for the sake of experience and program material. And then at some point, you won't do free work. It also depends on whether or not what you're voicing should be paid. So don't just volunteer it because you're willing to do it for free. I mean, if someone's willing to pay and you beat out other people, then don't do it for free. I mean, the example is your first paid gig is going to be because they offered you money and you probably would have done it for free. So don't let your lack of experience in, let's say, marketing and or what things cost make you get taken advantage of, meaning you'll know that it feels wrong. It just starts to feel wrong. And that's when you either ask for more money or it depends on what the specific arrangement is. I know a lot of people who did, narration for school film projects and then graduate school projects and or friends narrate an audiobook for a friend. That is a great way to the get into the workflow because you'll become more confident in general with your system and your voice. You'll increase your level of control, familiarity in general with how long something takes. You'll know how to work by doing free work. Uh, uh, yeah, so don't let the no pay, I don't want to get taken advantage of, get in the way of working every day. That being said, and again, this is where being in this chat and on this outstanding Discord filled with information will help you. You should have a pulse on whether or not something should be paid. So, for example, if you've never worked before and your voice is going on a social media spot, you should still be paid. Because if it's going, I mean, like a legit social media spot by like a known brand. If it's your friend's channel and you're doing the pre-roll, that's a thing. That's a separate issue. If they're willing to pay someone else and they chose you, you should get paid just as much as it's a meritocracy. But if you're looking for program material again, that's when you're getting paid with opportunity. And I say this not just to voice actors. I say this to if there was someone asking about engineering, that definitely engineer in the beginning, engineer for free in the beginning to get familiar with engineering. Opportunity equals future pay, 100%. And then if they can't come up with the dough on like the next few episodes or whatever, then maybe it's time for you to not do that. But uh, I would absolutely be open to free or low pay work, especially in the beginning.
Mhm. 100%, man. And, to kick it off, lastly, I got one final thing to kind of have you answer. What is some like last pieces of what you would say underrated pieces of advice that you would give for voice actors, especially those that are just starting out, topics that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I want to go back to the very first thing that I mentioned, which was like integration. Don't underestimate how all these different skills need to be brought together, and you might have more experience in one aspect of what you're trying to of the area you're trying to pursue than you might realize. For example, if you're a customer service person, if you've been a teacher, or if you're just you know, someone who likes to talk and you're that person that's always running your mouth at like a party. I think voiceover is for you. You're going to have that breath control. You're going to have that animation. No one's going to need you to turn the energy up kind of thing. You've got that. If you have that kind of voice and you have that vocal DNA, that's one aspect of it. Okay, so you are already at 90% there. Understand where your gaps are. Your gaps are going to be the tech, understanding the industry, maybe marketing yourself, maybe being able to adjust, maybe it's control, maybe it's what exactly is a session? Maybe can I listen to a session? Is there a live session or a practice session or listen to the audiobooks on social media that some people are literally live streaming their audiobooks. You can listen to the way that they record, understand that the key is integrating several skills. It's not, oh, I have a great voice. I've been told this. That is a very, very small component of what needs to happen to succeed. You have a great voice, outstanding. Um, do you know how to get jobs? Do you know how to set up? Do you know how to record? Do you know how to take direction? Do you know how to read and sound like you're not reading? Are you willing to read aloud every day? Are you willing to read the street signs that while you're driving aloud every day and practice? Like I'm on Laurel Canyon Boulevard. Oh, I'm passing Laurel Canyon Boulevard, Laurel Canyon Boulevard, Laurel Canyon Boulevard. That was a triple. That's your triple. That's your triple. That's your triple. You get used to doing a triple, then you get used to doing a triple, then you get used to doing a triple, and then you have your range, and then you have your range, and then you have, getting used to doing that. Then when someone says, "Hey, can you do this two different ways?" No problem. No problem. No problem. Then you understand the different uh, attacks and releases within a phrase. This type of thing, being willing to do that, you know more than you think you do. You got to put it all together. So that's the big nugget I want to give people. Where there are a lot of little details that have to be sewn together by this web of skill, familiarity, context, and just instinct that will help people get work. Because there are some outstanding voice actors. They have a great booth. They know how to read. They're just not working. And that makes me sad. And it's because they haven't put everything together.
Mm. Well, 100%, brother. Hey, I appreciate you, man. I mean, we've been kicking it now for almost about like 2 hours. We were initially supposed to go to 7, but I kind of wanted it to extend to this time, hopefully. Primarily due to the fact that, like, you give a lot of information, and I feel like that a lot of folks here really, really do appreciate that. The only other question I would have to ask is just like, where can people find you in terms of social media?
Sure. Hey, I have a nascent TikTok channel. It's called mad.vo, mad.vo, mad.vo. Um, and also any working voice talent. If I don't have your reel, why don't I have your reel? Send your reel to Ross at voiceoverla.com on the way down. Ross at voiceoverla.com. Here's 1950s radio. Ross at voiceoverla.com. Also, you have questions, happy to answer that. I love this. I I uh I I'll share this briefly. My TikTok channel is like a 50-year-old crashing out, like being enamored with social media. I lost 20 pounds standing, directing people in the box on my TikTok live. I'm so grateful for the people that are like willing to come and, share their voice type of thing. And I also want to say VO is revenge of the theater people. We were all picked on, not all, I was. Many of us were picked on in high school. We couldn't find ourselves, didn't know, performance. It's like we found, maybe we didn't really find our thing. I mean, how amazing is it to just for a little bit being able to monetize, or maybe a lot, be able to monetize that art and that passion, the intersection of like art and a little bit of money, or maybe a lot. How great is that for that to happen? Like it shouldn't end in high school or college or in school. It shouldn't be dormant. Like even if you wind up working in accounting, like find a way to get your voice heard. And I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy like trying to help people, inspire them to go get work, because if you want to get work, someone someone else is being heard. Why not you? And that's literally what uh, channel my channel is about. I'm literally from like the other side of the glass. I'm not voice talent, clearly not. I'm from like the director, voiceover producer, engineer side. Like, what's that about? And hopefully, that's like a little bit of a different flavor, especially given my age demographic, to what might be out there on social media. And I've met some great people. Would love to meet you up in the box. Certainly love being interviewed by this outstanding character actor who crushes it, who has more energy than me. Maybe not, but has more energy than me, but is half my age. It's been a real pleasure, and uh, you know, uh, hopefully we can do this again.